So when you're burning a fire, you want logs because they're big, they're going to keep going. And that's a different type of input and fuel than if you have kindling and it's just burning up real quick. And, you're kind of, so when I say that, what I mean is, are you a sugar burner or are you a fat burner?
The liquids that you're drinking and
Yeah.
the timing of those are really critical to maximizing your recovery. So let's kind of get into kind of recovery nutrition, supplements, strategies on how to fuel and refuel our body for optimizing recovery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as an overarching theme here, I would say the first thing is to think about anti-inflammatory diet. And of course, everyone has a different tolerance for foods. So some things are inflammatory to one person and they're not to another person. But if we think of anti-inflammatory nutritionally, first of all, it's that avoiding those ultra processed foods, right? Like that's a must. And it's not eating, the cheeseburgers. And unfortunately, and I'm, not to poo-poo anything at the Run Fest as an example, but we've got like the stands of some options that are good and some that are maybe not the best choice to go like ham on after, you just stopped racing. But in general, I would just say whole foods as much as possible, getting those proteins in because of the amino acids that are going to really help rebuild tissue, healthy fats. So when we eat fats, there's the main mechanism of action that I think of outside of just giving us fat grams or, is really going to be like, how is it improving our cells? Because our cells, all of our cells in our whole body have a bilayer, lipid bilayer, lipid. So it's fat. So if we're eating poor fats, then we're going to have a poor lipid bilayer, just the way that our body digests them. And then it's creating inflammatory molecules if it's a bad fat, anti-inflammatory molecules if it's a good fat. And what I mean by good and bad is basically, again, coming back to whether it is maximally, minimally processed versus highly processed. So if you think of, fat sources come from meats and they come from avocados and they come, from coconut and all these good things. You also have olive oil, a great choice, butter, dairy, those are all healthy fats. Obviously we want organic and things like that. But then you've got the bad stuff pretty much that is my main category is vegetable oil. So if it's got sunflower, safflower, canola, those are the main ones you're going to see a lot, soybean oil, and that's usually in a processed food. So if we can really limit processed foods, we're already ahead of the game when it comes to being anti-inflammatory. So, and it really is, if it's a whole food, if it came from the earth, those are going to be pretty much anti-inflammatory as a category. When we go a little more, specific with things, I like people to think of certain anti-inflammatory foods to incorporate like immediately after for at least like a week, to kind of focus on. So for instance, pineapple is one of my favorites because it's got something bromelain, which is a enzyme, a proteolytic enzyme, which helps to fight pain and bring inflammation down. So pineapple's a great one. Anything that's blue, red, purple, fruit, vegetable, those colors have a ton of antioxidants in them, which again, bring down inflammation, improve your circulation. So those are really great. Ginger, I'm sure everyone's heard that ginger is healthy in so many ways for gut.
Good.
Yeah, so that's another fighting, there's actually 2 studies from the University of Georgia that have shown that ginger can help fight inflammation and reduce exercise-induced muscle pain in doses of 2 grams a day. So you could like boil some slices and then, make almost like a tea tincture. You can throw chunks of those into a smoothie. So that's really great as well. You can buy, ginger tea as well, but I like the whole food form of these.
Me too.
And then, a couple other things are just like garlic, peppers, dark leafy greens, and then, fatty fish like salmon, avocados, those things. Those are all great foods to really focus on right away. So I think that's kind of what I would go toward as far as specific whole foods. Well, again, I have like all kind of a supplement list. So we talked about whole foods. So supplementally, actually hydrogen water is definitely one of them I have here. I know you also have that in the clinic, water and wellness. And, it's active H2 Ultra, I think is the one you have. So hydrogen water does a lot of things. Like it's giving our body this molecular hydrogen. And a lot of times it's a tablet form that you dissolve into water. You can buy like machines, but it's quite pricey and it's just more convenient, honestly, to have the tablets. So that specifically will help with energy, performance and recovery, One thing I love about it is it supports nitric oxide, which is really
Mhm.
important for that blood circulation and
Yes.
cardiovascular health. I mean, you
Huge.
can use this before, during training. It's not just after. And then another thing it's really good for is your immune system. And as we know, like our immune systems get kind of run down when we're really pushing hard. So that's helpful. And it neutralizes free radicals, which we create a ton of free radicals just by living. But when we're also pushing and training and performing, we're like 10xing it. So we want to get rid of those free radicals or neutralize them as much as we can. And hydrogen water is fantastic for that. So another one that's easy is vitamin C. Like everyone knows that that's healthy. Everyone knows that that's good for your immune system. It's good for it's an antioxidant. So obviously you're going to get that in some of these foods we already discussed, but we can also add additional for that. So we're going to have a lot of, like I said, free radicals, oxidative damage, and vitamin C is great for that. So bringing that, kind of oxidative stress down. And easy to get. I prefer people getting whole food supplement versions. So for instance, if you go to the store, most of the time it's ascorbic acid or some kind of synthetic version of vitamin C. There's a lot of controversy, to be honest, whether or not that's bad. I personally do not take that. I take a whole food form. So for instance, you can find supplements that are acerola cherry in kind of a dehydrated form. You can also find some that have camu, which is another plant-based vitamin C, supplement. So look for things like that when you're shopping around. We talked a little bit about the enzymes earlier in the pineapple, the bromelain, but you can actually take proteolytic enzyme blends to help clear out damaged tissue and speed up your recovery. I definitely take that. I also will take it if I had, like when I've had surgery, not right after surgery, because you don't want it's a blood thinner. But if you want to, wait a couple weeks or wait a week and then start kind of high dosing proteolytic enzymes, I've worked with athletes on that protocol before and just referred them specifically to what I would recommend. Amino acids we talked about, the essential amino acids, incredible to just keep on that. Fish oil is another one. As everyone knows, it's anti-inflammatory, but I always want to say it's worse to take a bad fish oil than not to take one. So don't just go to your Costco,
Yes.
GNC, whomever,
So true.
get one. It's literally, and I just want to explain for people why. Fish oil is very unstable. It's an unstable molecule. And when they process it from a fish, it gets exposed to light and air and, heat. So if that happens, it literally makes that fish oil rancid, which then is actually it's almost like putting vegetable oil in your body. So we don't want that. We have to make sure we vet the companies. And again, this is what I do with people one-on-one. So if anyone wants like specifics, just, reach out and I can help guide you on what to look for, what brands. But that's a great, good fish oil is amazing for more than just recovery, but heart health, lipids, et cetera, and brain health. But the last two are curcumin. Again, everyone knows turmeric, curcumin is supposed to be so good, and it really is. Just make sure you're getting organic and a high quality version. And then the last thing is magnesium. Again, everyone knows that one, but we're in a stress time, which, I mean, I've not seen a blood lab that I've run on someone that they had like sufficient magnesium stores. So, and they're not even athletes necessarily. So just know you're burning through that in any stress state, and taking magnesium replenishes the loss. It helps with muscle fatigue. It helps with cramping and mineral imbalances. Also super important for hormone detox in your liver. But I like people to look at like glycinate, magnesium glycinate, or malate is really great for muscles. So those are my like tops that people can consider working in. I do want to say, and I'm just going to put my stake on this and I'll continue to, and this is kind of a pun actually, animal protein. I didn't even mean to make that stake and pun, but animal protein, I'm sorry, the plant proteins are not doing it because, and I mean, we're talking about a shake right now or powder, but you want the whey isolates. You want that because it is only going to give, that's the only form that's going to give you something called leucine in a certain threshold to help you trigger muscle protein synthesis, which is then going to repair. So, I don't want to like turn anyone off here, but at the same time, I'm a research-based person and plant proteins do not have that leucine. So you have to have that if you want it to do the most work for you.